Hello, welcome. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Hashim Duale. I'm your host today, Autism Awareness Show. As usual, we come on air 12 p.m. every day during the Ramadan, and you can tune in into FM 87.7, or you can watch us on Facebook and all the Twitter, every other. We are live there. Today it's very packed program. I will not take much of the time of air because I have to accommodate many. As we do here, we always bring guests who are very knowledgeable about the subject we're talking about. Today we're talking about autism in the first half, and then later on we will delve into the mental health as well in general. And I have many guests, and I will introduce you as they come in, because many of the ways we do is when we see the person, that's when we introduce them. My first guest today is Dr. Satheesh Kumar Gangadharan. Dr. Satheesh is very seasoned consultant, and he works for LBT, that's Leicester Partnership NHS Trust. He's honorary professor at University of Leicester. He's visiting professor of neurodevelopmental psychiatry of Loughborough University, and he's friend of mine. I should add that as one, because he's one of the people that I go to him whenever the community, because I have this way of people asking me questions, and as a good community worker, you are good as far as your contacts are good. So he's one of the people I knock his door. Without further ado, I welcome Dr. Gangadharan here today, and it is one question, and one question only, that I will be asking him. When we go to the website of the NHS, the autism, when we ask, they will define the symptoms. They define people. They will define what it is not. But in layman's words, if we want to define what it is, autism.
Thank you, Hashim, for inviting me to this conversation in the holy month. I'm happy to be here. Autism is a neurodevelopmental condition. It's not a disease. It's not a disorder. It's a condition, which means people with autism are different to people without autism. That's what it means. And that's because there are changes in the way the development of the brain happens to people with autism, and that's what makes them different to people without autism. Having said that, the word spectrum is very often used when people describe autism, because no single person with autism is like with another person with autism. There is a huge variations even within the autism community. There are people with autism who are very, very intelligent, who achieve lots of things in their life. There are professors with autism. There are scientists with autism. There are musicians with autism. So there are people with autism who do really well in their life. At the same time, there are people with autism who have additional problems, like their intelligence and their day-to-day functions are affected to a level that they need lots of support to make it safe for them. So what you have within the umbrella of autism is a huge variability in the way people appear, in the way people speak, in the way they are able to get on with their life. So that's the most important thing. Although people with autism have problems, like they have difficulty getting along with other people in the way that we normally do. They can get along with other people, but they struggle with their social interactions. So that causes lots of anxiety for them. When they are facing other people, when they are going into social situations, they become very anxious. So So that's one aspect of it. And the other aspect is they have difficulty accepting change sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes they find change very difficult. They get extremely anxious about the change. So the change needs to happen in a predictable way. And some people with autism, but not all people with autism, also have certain repetitive movements and repetitive speech. That's because that's the way they communicate and that's the way they manage their anxiety. Um, Also, lots of people with autism have difficulty with coping with sensory aspects like sound, vision, light, touch. Some people will would want to have bright light, whereas other people with autism will find it extremely difficult to be in a bright light. Some people take comfort in a loud environment, where other people with autism may find sound very sensitive, so their environment has to be very quiet. The same with touch. Some people with autism like being hugged. They like a tight hug, but there are other people with autism who will not tolerate touch or hug at all. So there is a huge variability in how people with autism present themselves. What is most important is that autism is not a disease that can be treated and cured. That's the most important thing. Having said that, there are lots of things that we could do to make the life of a person with autism better. We can make their environment predictable. They have a clear structure for the day. You can communicate to people with autism in a very clear way that will help them. When people with autism find it very difficult to understand the spoken language, they would find it helpful to have visual communications, whether it's picture or whether it's written up in an accessible manner. So there are ways that we can help people with the communication aspect of it. The people with autism are supported well right from the beginning of their childhood. They tend to do well. They tend to achieve better. Um, that's the most important part of it. So although autism can't be cured, you can still do lots of things to make the lives of people with autism better. The most important thing is to identify very early on in childhood when a child has symptoms of autism. The research shows that from as early as 4 to 6 months, you can see some evidence of autism. But a reliable diagnosis of autism can be made around when a child is around 2 years. And often the diagnosis is made by the pediatricians at this stage, or at a later stage, a psychiatrist or a psychologist can make a diagnosis. So what is most important is identify when a child has autism, identify it as early as possible so that right support goes to help the child, and that help the child to grow in a positive way, develop positive self-esteem, and achieve the best the child can achieve within the capability of that particular child.
Thank you. You really did it in less than we asked. I know that you are on call and you're in the ward now, and we just hijacked you from your job today.
That's okay.
What would be your concluding remarks before I go to my next guests?
Okay. My concluding remark is actually that treat people with autism as people first. It's important for us to accept people with autism as they are, and then try and help them as best as possible to achieve better things in their lives. So if you are running a business, some people with autism are employable, and they would become actually very good employees. So consider actually taking people with autism as employees, and there are support around that. And if you are working in school or other educational system, think about people with autism and how well we can support people with autism. And if you are meeting them in the community, again, treat them with respect, see them as people, that we are all different. And people with autism are slightly different to us, but they are fundamentally people who have the right to live in the community and get the maximum out of their life. That would be my concluding remark.
Thank you ever so much, and really appreciate it. It is really very packed but powerful points you made there. And I will not keep you long. I know that you're very busy, and thank you for coming today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye.
And before I go to my next guests, today the producer, co-producer, I should say, is Dylan. Dylan, can you tell us the names, the numbers that people here in the studio can contact if they have questions? And please remember that this show is two-way show. If you have yourself the microphone, you can say, even though people cannot see you.
Hi everyone. So just, as Hashim was pointing out, if you want to give us a call, send a message to us at all, our studio line is 0116 482 2086. And if you want to send a message to us on WhatsApp, it's 07748 855 055. So if you want to come in and send us a message, we'll make sure it's displayed on the radio for you, or if you want to call in. Thank you.
As I told you, today our show is very packed. I can see on the screen two wonderful people over there, and soon they will take over from the mic from me, because as I told you, this program is very interactive, and they are Sam and Chris. Sam and Chris, if you can check first your sound and say hello to everyone here.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I would like both of you, because I always play my show a kind of suspense. I never reveal the guests beforehand, and I will say, look, I will have very packed, but today is really very packed. In next 20 minutes is your show, you and Chris. I would like first, I don't know, as it is fair on you, to introduce first each other to the guests and listeners everywhere around the world.
Okay.
If you introduce yourself, because I forget who you are.
My name's Sam Screaton, and I'm a senior lecturer in learning disability nursing at De Montfort University. So I'm a learning disability nurse by background and an academic here at the university.
And my name is Dr. Chris Knifton. I'm Associate Professor in Neurodevelopmental and Neurocognitive Care. And by background, I'm both a learning disability nurse and a social worker. But also, I have autism myself. And quite often I talk about my experience as someone with autism trying to navigate the world around me, particularly in education.
Indeed. Our first guest, I'll just give you the mic totally, both of you, was a consultant, Dr. Satheesh Gangadharan, and he was talking about professors like you, lecturers like you, who live with autism or autistic. Some people like that way, the people like the other way. So it is a pleasure to have you on the show and share your experience as much as you can. And next 20 minutes, the show is yours, both of you. I hand over.
Oh, lovely. Thank you very much. Did you want to start with anything, Sam? Anything particularly you want to talk about?
Well, just to say thank you really for raising such an important conversation. I think it's something that people talk about, people think they perhaps know and understand, but actually I think there's a lot more education needs to happen. So I've been following with interest some of the speakers that you've had on over the last couple of weeks. So we're really happy to come and give you some of our views and experiences, really. And I don't know, do you want to start with some of your experiences? I think people would want to hear that, perhaps more so than me.
All right, sure. So, of course, I've had autism since I was young. You are born with it, but you don't always know you've got it until you've gone through the systems itself that may reveal to you your diagnosis. I do remember growing up quite a few challenges, and I guess one that comes out to me is I was labelled by those around me, in particular schooling, as not being particularly bright, and I do lots of drawing, lots of detailed pictures and things, but academically, no. And I left school with no GCSE, well, a GCSE in art, and that was about it. And because the system decided I couldn't do it, I therefore decided I couldn't do it. And it was only then when I decided to go into nurse training and train to become a learning disability nurse that I started to think a bit more about what I could do. And I remember when I went for the interview to be an LD nurse, they said, you need to have an academic qualification. And I thought, well, I'm really going to struggle with that because I'm not an academic person. But it was essential. And because I was into art, I was doing an A-level art at the time, and you had to do a second A-level to be able to do that. So I was doing an A-level in sociology. And this is going back many, many years, to the point where you just did an exam at the end of 2 years. There were no modules. And I remember thinking I need to pass this, but my autism makes things quite difficult, being labelled as being not very bright. But then I thought, why do I not use it to my advantage? And one of the positive traits I would talk about in autism is being able to look at logic, order, systems, patterns, processes. So I wrote off for the past 10-year exam papers. So the last 10 years, let's have those exam papers, put them on my desk, and had a good look. And within 20 minutes, I saw a pattern. And I thought, well, this is interesting. And using that pattern, I was able to work out what the next set of papers questions would be. I think, oh, this could work. So in my head, I'd created what I thought was going to be the exam questions. My autism luckily gives me a semi-photographic memory, so I could plan what I wanted to do as an essay. And then I rocked up to my school, sat the exam, opened the page, and all the questions I predicted were there. And that's because I learned to use the strength of my autism, which is looking for patterns and processes. Sat it, got an A. And at that point, I thought, perhaps I'm not as, perhaps I'm brighter than those around me have presumed I am. And since that point, I've decided I need to work out how my mind works, how my mind thinks, think about the advantages and the abilities that being autistic can give you. There's a lot out there about the negatives, but what about the benefits or opportunities? And since then, I progressed very well. I'm on a project with Satheesh, who you spoke to earlier on, but also having left school with just a GCSE in art and then it's A-level, I've now got several degrees and masters and doctorates and published and all sorts. And I do realise in autism it's a huge spectrum. There are people who do have significant intellectual impairments. But on the other side of autism, the bit that we less hear about are people with high cognitive abilities in autism. We still have our challenges, have quite a few social challenges, a bit like earlier on when you said, can you introduce each other? I thought, no, I cannot introduce another person. That doesn't fit with how my head works. I'll introduce me, but I can't introduce this lady, even though I've known Sam for years. So there are little social issues that I do struggle with quite a lot. But once Sam's had a chat, I'd like to talk about the benefits and opportunities that autism, for some people, may also offer. So that's my initial startup.
Okay.
Over to you, Sam.
I'm not sure I can follow that, Chris. So I'm not autistic, but have a real passion for helping those around me to understand from the perspective that I have how important it is that we embrace neurodiversity and neurodivergence, and that we, and I'm very fortunate that through my 20-odd year nursing career, I have cared for many, many individuals with a learning disability who were also autistic, some who were autistic without a learning disability. But I find myself also now working alongside colleagues like Chris, and I think it's really broadened my understanding even further. So a lot of students that we teach are more confident now to say, I'm autistic, and we're getting better, I think, at then saying, okay, well, what do you need from us? How can we help you to do what you need to do while you're here? So yeah, autism is something that I have become very, very interested and captivated by over the years. And as Chris said, I think there are many individuals where either they may not have a diagnosis, they may have self-diagnosed, they may have been misdiagnosed, and I feel really strongly that we need to help those individuals to find themselves and understand who they are, so that they can live a really fulfilled life. I'm going to hand back to you, Chris.
Lovely. Thank you, Sam. So what I want to talk about in particular is the benefits. When you say benefits, it's an odd thing to say when you've got this disorder. So when we use a medical model and we look at this labelling system for neurodiversity, it's classified as a neurodevelopmental disorder. And straight away that puts a negative slant on things. So when I start to say what's the benefits about having autism, people can look at it in different ways. Particularly if you've got autism with an additional intellectual impairment, that can sound quite shocking. But for some people with autism, there can be some benefits if we look for them, or at least, I use the word benefits, people may prefer to use the word opportunities that having an autistic mind can actually bring or come to the surface. So one of the things, I've done a little list here, so I'm going to keep looking at the slides I've done based on some of the things that I've personally experienced. A strong social conscience, I've wrote, desire for personal and organisational integrity, absolutely. So you will find that people with autism are more likely to put themselves, understand the system they're operating in, what's the rules, what's appropriate, what's the social conscience that underpins it, and that becomes important over many other ideals. And that's interesting because people tend to see autism as a lack, people with autism may lack empathy. That is incorrect. People with autism do have empathy. The difference is how the empathy is shown or taken up. So I'm married, I've got a wife, and if she gets upset, I will ignore her. And I'll go and do something else instead, like, I don't know, washing a skirting board or something, because I've got no idea how to attend if she's distressed. So my way of being empathetic is to give her that space. But that could be seen as avoiding because you don't understand someone is distressed. So it's not about people are not empathetic. It's about your perception of what empathy looks like may be different in our head. And it's our ability to try to address that we know someone isn't happy or comfortable, and our way of dealing with that may be a different way to what you expect. So we do have empathy, just sometimes our empathy comes out in different ways. We're very good, usually, logic, order, systems, processes, and again, that's helped me in my academic career quite a bit. Once I realised that's one of the strengths that I've got, to recognise patterns, etc. Complex things. For someone who's got autism, thinking about coming to university or doing further study, the university is great. It's so different from being at school. In school, it's very pedagogical. And what that means is, I'll tell you what to do and you will do it. Pedagogical. At university, it's a bit more andragogical, which is more adult-centered. So not only will I give you an idea of what you want, but now I want you to analyze what I've just said, critique what I've just said, find an alternative, find a different viewpoint, find a different lens. Now, the autistic mind loves stuff like that. There is one danger. I tend to be also, which is an autistic trait, quite aware of my own self-belief. So if I think something is true, then that is a thing that is true. I've done my research though. Now I think that's true. So here you go. That's the world around me. You may have a very different perspective, but I will struggle to see your perspective because I've decided what the worldview is, and therefore that has to be the thing. For you to have a different viewpoint, sometimes I find that hard to accept, because why do you not know what I know? Surely you should know this. So I've had to learn quite a bit about respecting other people's viewpoints, and then it can be different to mine, and they may also have evidence, even though I think I'm right. I'm a little bit, I think I'll say self-opinionated. I look at Sam then in case she's going to say, yes, you are, or no, you're not. But I know I am extremely self-opinionated. Now, from these positives, there are some difficulties I've faced by particularly as being a lecturer. So the first bit was, do I come out to students? Should I tell a new student, that I have autism or not? It's my choice as to whether I declare it. And when I first started to lecture, I didn't. And then about 2 or 3 years afterwards, I thought, no, I will. Because I recognise there's quite a few students with neurodiversity, including autism, and what we don't have enough of is role models. So if someone spotted the lecturer, the teacher, etc., also had autism and they were quite open about it, could that help someone else become a bit more open? So I'm very open. I self-disclose to students, and it's quite interesting how many, particularly adult learners, adult students, who will come in and see me to say, Chris, I'm not ready to tell everyone, but I think I may have autism, or I've got some autistic traits, or I've had a diagnosis and I really thought I would struggle academically, but seeing you here as an associate professor teaching the way you do, I feel quite positive now about my opportunities and chances in undertaking a degree course. So I'm open about it, but at the same way, I'm also quite open with some of the things that I can't do and some of the things I struggle with, because I think being authentic is equally as important. Yes, talk about the benefits, talk about the opportunities, talk about the things we struggle with as well, because that makes who you are. And some of the struggles I have is temperature regulation. I know my temperature isn't right, but I cannot tell you if it's hot, if I'm hot or cold. So I've got to go through a process of turning up the radiator, turning it down, putting a jumper on, taking a jumper off, until I find, oh, this feels great. I cannot tell you if I'm hot or cold, but I can tell you if my temperature's not right. I take meaning very seriously. So if people give me a metaphor or ask me to do a thing, the words they've said is what I would focus on. And I think you see that quite common in autism. My wife once said to me, there's a big bottle of Lucozade in the fridge. Can you bring me some, or can you bring it to me in a glass? And I was gone for a long while, and she shouted, where are you? Anyway, in the end, I came in and I said, I can't find a glass, but I've got this glass jug, will that do? And I'd put the bottle of Lucozade in the jug, because that's what she wanted. What she meant was, can I have a big glass of Lucozade? So I do take meaning quite specifically. So I did say that to students. Socially, I in a classroom, I'm in control. I've got a clear role to play. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm saying. And hopefully I come across to my students as someone who's quite confident. But the minute the classroom stops and it's a break time, or people are in a coffee bar or cafeteria, I'm not as confident. My social skills diminish. I'm not quite sure whether to say hello or not. Do I speak to a student outside the classroom? Do I not speak to a student? Yeah, so I do have my own challenges too, but the positives as well. So,
okay, so I was just sitting here thinking, what have we not touched on that maybe so a particular area that I'm interested in is women's health, and I'm sure, you know, it's perhaps been addressed through other speakers, but within the autistic community, women are often quite hidden, either not diagnosed, misdiagnosed, very late diagnosis, and sometimes had a very difficult journey, as everybody often, lots of people often do, to get the diagnosis. So one of the things that's been important, so I do a lot of the autism teaching on the Learning Disability Nursing Programme and to some of the other fields of nursing here, and recently had the opportunity to talk to the midwives here about some of the stuff that I've come to learn about the experience of autistic women during pregnancy, during birth, and those sort of difficult times just after the birth often, and that was really interesting, and the conversations that we had with that group of midwives was really interesting, because I think that was something that perhaps people had not really sort of thought about, but actually it could be, you know, some really basic things that would be fundamental, that if we didn't do them and we didn't understand, you know, pain and the presentation of pain. You sort of jogged my memory when you said about temperature control, and it may be that, you know, emotions are misinterpreted, and pain signs and signals may not be picked up on if they're perhaps not being displayed in the most you know, neurotypical way, I guess. So yeah, so that's we're always looking to, I guess, keep up to date with the shifting sands around autism and what we know. And, you know, when I first did my training in the late 1990s, autism wasn't talked about. It wasn't a significant part of our training, and yet my whole career have I spent with autistic people, and there's been some really key points throughout my career where I've had the opportunity to learn something new when I've thought, oh gosh, I wish I'd known that 5 years ago or 10 years ago, or it's taken me back to a particular patient or individual where I think, oh, I didn't get that right, and I didn't get it right because I didn't know that person had a different perspective to my own. So I think it's really important for our future, certainly nurses and midwives here at the university, that we really help them to understand the potential needs of an autistic person that they might be caring for, whether they have a diagnosis or not. I think we might be running out of time a little bit, but is there anything else you want to say, Chris? I think as we're coming up to 20 minutes.
No,
Just
if you have any questions.
if Chris can put it all together for your last points of concluding remarks.
Okay. I guess one thing to find and reflect on is autism. To be autistic is about as unique as it is to be a person. People's autism will express itself in different ways. There are a collection of signs and symptoms and positives and challenges, but we all adapt to those in our own different way, and that's based on a whole range of other factors. Do not be afraid of having a diagnosis. Some people, when they have a diagnosis, are upset and concerned and worried, particularly if you get it as an adult. I would say, be your authentic self. It is who you are. You can own it. So some people discuss, I'm an autistic person, or I'm a person with autism. They're just semantics. You choose how you want to express your autism in your way. But what I would say is, don't just focus on some of the challenges that people often talk about. There's a whole host of positives out there. Focus on the positives and what it can bring to you. And for the people who don't have autism, understanding our experience, asking us, how do you do this? Does this work for you? Is this lighting okay? How's the temperature for you? In healthcare environments, how would you let me know that you're in pain, etc. Ask us questions, we will tell you, because we're unlikely to volunteer that information, because we may not know what you want us to know or what you need to know, so we don't give it. So ask as many questions as you can, and we'll give the answer. But when you do ask, make sure you're asking the question in a very clear way, so it's unambiguous, and that way you'll get the right answer.
That is masterclass. I couldn't get in 10 minutes or less all that information. I cannot thank you enough, both of you, Sam and Chris. And I will be in touch. It didn't finish here. Thank you very much. To be continued, I should add.
Okay.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And now, Dylan, can you tell the numbers where people can follow us this show? Dylan is co-producer today, and they are commanding people all the time, writing things up there for me. The numbers, please.
Yes, of course, Hashim. So if anyone wants to call in and have a chat with Hashim, so the best way to do so is through the studio line at 0116 482 2086. Or if you wish to send us a message that Hashim can read out loud, just pop us a message on WhatsApp at 07748 855 055.
Thank you ever so much. Today I told you the program is packed, and I seldom re-announce my guests here in the studio. I have my guest here, Louise O'Reilly. Louise, she's a passionate person in the job she is in, communication and engagement manager. It is not only that, but she's one of those people who are very passionate, and she works in the mental health, and the mental health and well-being support is in the community is most important for us, and that's why she's here. Without further ado, if people have wanting to do things and be confident same time, without stigmatized, where they can go in the city. And in general, last 10 minutes of the show is yours.
In our mental health consultation in 2021. So yeah, it's nice to be here today. We've done a lot since we started the consultation, and we've developed many things that people can find to find support for their mental health. I think one of them, I've just given you a leaflet, haven't I, with this new, it's called Social Prescribing, this new website with lots and lots of things on it where people can find support for their mental health. And it's called the Joy app, and it's a website. It's like a marketplace where you can go on there and you can find activities and support based on where you live. So you go on the Joy app and you put your postcode in and you put how far you want to go. And then you can find information and services for you. And Hashim's now just demonstrating how the QR code works. And if you go on there and you're looking for support for mental health, or you want to connect with other people or find new hobbies, or maybe you just want to get a bit more physically active because it's affecting your health, and you want to find groups or support for that, then you can go onto the Joy app and find it. And I think we're launching this to the general public on Friday, on Good Friday. So it's launching over Easter. So while people are off, they can have a look at it. They can start connecting in with it.
So we are lucky to have the exclusive as a radio.
It's not been released yet.
Yeah, okay. So that's what we are for. Being exclusive and sharing the good news beforehand.
Yeah, nobody knows this yet. It's a secret. So at the moment, we're putting up around the city. We're putting up adverts on bus shelters, and they haven't gone live yet. So they will be appearing on Friday. And what we're trying to do is say to people, when you are struggling, and I know we've had lots of conversation, haven't we? Where do you go if you're struggling and you need to talk to somebody and you want support? So this Joy app is about linking you in. You can refer yourself in. So if I wanted some support, I can go on it for myself. If my parents need some support, say I need to find them something to help with their mental health or their physical health, I can help them. So it's for anybody to go on and find information for themselves or someone they care about. And I suppose the other thing, Hashim, since I think I came in last year to talk during Ramadan, what has also changed since last year is that we've now got 25 neighbourhood mental health cafes up and running, and we didn't have that many last year. I think we had about 14 or 15, but since then we've got the full number now, and we've got 25. We're just going through a slight reorganisation of some of the cafes, so we're updating the website, but essentially we've got 25 places, and these are cafes where if you're feeling that you want to talk to somebody, you feel like you could be coming into a crisis, or you might be a carer and you're at your wit's end and you need to talk to somebody, then you can drop into one of these cafes. You don't need an appointment. You can just turn up, you'll get a coffee or a cup of tea, and you'll get someone that you can just talk to find out what's out there to support you.
Indeed, one of the things that people have difficulty with is the stigma in these coffee places that there are people who are trained to hold hand people who might be shy in not sharing with everyone that they may be suffering depression or they've been blues or whatever it is, because some cultures mental health is big word and that stigma put them away.
You're right, Hashim. I think it's a really good question. People that are running these cafes, a lot of them are local partners. They're people that know their community. So the one that runs here, the Highfields one, is run by Jamila's Legacy. So you know that's run by an organisation that's invested in this area.
My colleague Rahina see that.
Yes, who is she? Yeah. I think she might be known to this radio station, but
yes, she has a show.
Yeah, I know. But it's people that are invested in their local area. It's run by people for the people. So those people running that cafe, they understand the people that are walking through those doors. They understand the stigma and the shame and the worry. It's people that know their audience, really. So the 25 cafes, they're not run by the NHS, they're funded by the NHS, but they're run by local organisations that know their local communities. So you're right, they have to be meaningful to the local population. And they're run by, just the other part of your question is, who runs them? Who will you be speaking to? Well, you'll be speaking to a recovery support worker. They're not a doctor. They're not sitting there with a white coat. They're not going to diagnose you. They're just somebody that can talk to you. They're trained to listen. They're trained to ask the right questions, and they know how to put you in touch with somebody if you need that support.
Indeed. You touched, and we have this exclusivity today, the Joy app. Tell me more about last minutes we have here. What should I like to get? I just go on to scan, and I got a website. But as soon as I'm running the show, I cannot go into, but I will go afterwards.
Well, it's funny enough, actually, Hashim. It was people like you and other voluntary sector partners that said when someone comes in to see them, they don't know where to send them, they don't know where to recommend. So we've worked with a lot of voluntary sector partners. We've worked with the local councils to say what's out there for people. So when people are looking and they are needing to find something, they don't always have to go to their GP. We've spoken about that before. You don't always want to go and see a GP. You want to find things for yourself. So you go onto the website, you think, what am I looking for? Am I looking for counselling? Is it bereavement support? Is it autism support? I've got an autistic family member, or I'm autistic myself. I need some support. You can type in the search button, click the search, and it will search near you. And you can change the geography. So if you want to keep it to the city centre, you can search within that city centre. So it's very much around what you want to find. You click on it, you find the service you want, you ring them, you email them, or you refer yourself in, and then they'll get in touch with you. So there's many different ways that you can connect with them. And then it just means you're not hunting around to try and find somebody to help you.
It is the service coming to me rather than me going to the services.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a nice way of thinking.
But the good thing is, and this is another thing that the voluntary sector partners wanted, we track what goes to them. So it means that people aren't lost. That person's gone, and we know that person said, yes, tick, I've got that person, I can then make a phone call to that person. So if I'm referring you because I think you need some help, Hashim, I go, oh, my friend needs this, and I'm going to refer him in, and then they'll let me know that they've made contact with you and they've made that connection. So it's just a really good way of making sure that people don't get lost and they're sent to the right place, they find the help they need, and as quickly as they need it, because we don't want people waiting and looking and not knowing where to go.
Indeed, and I thank you very much, really, to coming here. And you're not off the hook. I've been presenting you to other presenters as well, so maybe you will get more on this station. And this is why we're here to give the. Today it's been very fascinating day. I had a lot of experts, and in one day I can count 4 of them. Thank you. I'm blessed, and you are blessed too, because this is your show. And until we see each other next time, 1st April, yes, next Monday, I'll leave you with a good heart. Please observe and remember us in your dua. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.